Hi guys, I was lucky enough to see an early screening of Mission Impossible 8. I love the Mission Impossible franchise. I think like a lot of people, the franchise kind of snuck up on me. Like every time there was a new one, I would go see it and thoroughly enjoy it, especially from 4 onwards. But I even loved Mission Impossible 3. That was the earliest one I remember watching. But every couple of years, a new Mission Impossible movie came out. And just over time, I feel like, especially after number 6, which was just out of this world, incredible, I feel like it's got this reputation as the best kind of long running action franchise by a substantial margin. You know, it's probably more competent than the Bond films have been lately. It's more crowd pleasing. And I feel like if they stayed in that pocket, just every 3 years, we get a great action film that's well shot, well paced, good banter in between great action set pieces with great choreography and stunts. I feel like this franchise could have gone on for so long. However, the Final Reckoning is out. I did see it, and unfortunately, this is the first time the franchise has maybe felt like it's ready to wind down. So, initially, this was meant to be a two-part film with Mission Impossible 7, the Dead Reckoning, right? That was initially Dead Reckoning Part 1. If you press play on Dead Reckoning, it still pops up with the logo Part 1. And then due to the fact that that movie didn't do well, due to the weird choice to release this a week before Barbenheimer, the Final Reckoning, the one that's out in theaters soon, got changed to the Final Reckoning when it was meant to be Dead Reckoning Part 2. The reason I say this is, for some reason, even though this is technically Part 2 and concluding Part 1, it feels like an entirely different film. It almost feels like you didn't need to watch Dead Reckoning Part 1. The big point I'm getting at here is I feel bad for Tom Cruise. I feel bad for Tom Cruise because all the marketing is all about how committed Tom Cruise has been to the stunts. He's going to see Sinners opening day, and he's showing support for the act of filmmaking. He's showing support to his fellow filmmakers. He's in interviews. He's having, TikTok superfans over to premieres. He's done the most, and you can see the effort he's putting into these incredible stunts towards the back end of this movie. But I feel bad for him because the product we're given, the movie we've been given, in my opinion, feels old. There's no other way to explain it. It feels a bit out of touch with what the audience expects and wants. And it feels strange because every movie up until this point has felt locked in with the audience for the most part. It knows the type of banter and choreography and just like thrills we expect from these movies. But this one is perplexing. All right, the movies have always had very campy exposition. It's always been very tongue-in-cheek, but I felt like it's been a good balance. In this one, there is so much exposition and catching you up on things you already know. It's kind of insane, like the opening section where Tom Cruise in this movie gets one of those little tapes that will self-destruct, and it's explaining his mission. There's not even a mission. It's the US president basically being like, Ethan, because you care so much about your friends and you choose not to leave them behind, we want you to come in, even though we know you won't come in. And we know you won't come in because you care about your friends more than you care about playing by the rules. And it's just like, both of you know this. Like, it's a serious exposition problem that starts in the very opening moments of the movie and just kind of gets worse throughout the movie. Also, the villain here, he wasn't great in Part 1, but at least the action in that movie was so exciting and the thrills were so frequent. I was sort of waiting for the villain to kind of come to fruition and really like fill out in this movie. He's low-key worse in this movie. So there's two villains of this movie. There's essentially evil ChatGPT, right? So evil ChatGPT is going to take control of the world's nukes, all right? Like all of the nukes, and fire them at all the other countries. Notably, there is an Israel nuke, and we can only imagine where that one's going to go. But regardless, there's like all these nukes that the AI is going to take control of. And you're watching it, and the stakes are so high, and it's all on the back of a villain you can't see, you can't hate, you can't touch, you can't feel. It's evil ChatGPT. And early on in the movie, the entity, this evil AI, is at least presented to us as this like kind of Jarvis formation, like from the Marvel movies. And it's sort of speaking to Ethan Hunt. And at this point, you're sort of seeing there feeling like the franchise has jumped the shark a little bit. You're like, okay, I'll let them cook. In Dead Reckoning Part 1, or Dead Reckoning, whatever you call it now, there was a section where Ethan was getting advice from who he thought was Benji, but it was actually AI, imitating Benji and told him to go the wrong way. And as a result, he couldn't save one of his comrades. And that was like an exciting moment. You could see what this villainous force could do. In this movie, you don't really feel it. Like, yes, it is technically going to take control of the nukes, but at a certain point, you have no interactions with the entity. It's characters constantly being like, maybe this is what the entity wants us to think. I think the entity is going to do this, so we need to do this to trick the entity. But maybe the entity thinks that we're going to trick the entity, so what we're actually going to do is double back and do what the entity initially wanted us to do, but we're going to trick it into thinking we're going to do what it doesn't want us to do, even though we're going to do exactly what it wants us to do. And that's the thing and it's just like, it's just a lot. It's a lot. The first, I'm not kidding, an hour and a half of this movie goes by, and I don't even mind talking. I love slow burn movies, but it's not exciting character beats or good banter or like, I don't know, relatable stakes. It's all characters being like, we have to do the thing to do the thing to do the thing to do the thing, but if we don't do the thing right, the thing will do. And it's like, at a certain point, you're just like, okay, can you just show us? I also feel like the set pieces here need so much explaining because they've made it overly complicated. I kind of miss when it was, Tom Cruise is climbing up a building and we all understand that if you fall off a building, you die, and he's got gloves that are blue. And if they go red, the gloves aren't working and he might fall. That's it. That's all the setup you need. In this one, I know a defense in the comments is going to be like, well, you needed to know all this stuff so you knew the stakes of the mission. But at the end of the day, the first big set piece here is Tom Cruise is going down to a sunken submarine. It's incredibly exciting and gripping. And it's gripping because we all know what it's like to breathe. And he's underwater and he might run out of oxygen. But instead they add all this shit to this set piece about like this advanced scuba suit that doesn't exist in real life. So now we need to learn all the rules about this scuba suit, which doesn't end up mattering anyways. And it's just like, it's a lot. It's a constant barrage of explanation. And I'm sort of seeing there being like, just make the fundamental setup here less complicated, because when you're watching Tom Cruise try and navigate this sunken submarine, it's thrilling enough because you relate to these stakes. And I was just sitting there being like, I wish we didn't have to deal with 40 minutes of unrelatable, unfunny gobbledygook, truthfully. And there's just so much gobbledygook in this movie. Even when it starts going off in the last half with these incredible action set pieces, every time the movie feels like it finally has momentum and you're like, okay, this is the payoff of 4 hours of setup. Similar to how in Dead Reckoning Part 1, there's a lot of dialogue, but when you get to that train set piece, it's just full throttle. In this, once you start feeling like the movie has momentum, we're back to more like, oh, we need to do this thing and we need to do this thing and we need to do this thing. And unfortunately, I didn't find these sequences very fun. On top of that, this movie has like a massive issue with like fake out deaths. I'm trying to keep this spoiler free. I will get into a spoiler talk later in the video, but the movie will constantly be like, we need to do this thing and 2 or 3 people need to decide who's going to stay back and die, in order for the rest of us to go free. Like, and it'll raise the stakes. And then while they're doing that plan that you've communicated to the audience is going to result in their death, it'll be like, actually, I found a way to circumvent this that we didn't think of before and doesn't really make sense. And instead of dying, we're just going to come out with a bit of smoke on our face. They do this like 4 times. There's also a moment where they spend like 20 minutes explaining a fundamental part of a plan to do with like communicating coordinates. And you're like, oh, this will be cool to see play out. And this will be cool to see them get the coordinates. And then Deus Ex random character just ends up having the coordinates and like, you know what I mean? So you spend ages with these setups just for them to not matter in the grand scheme of things. And I know there's going to be someone in my comments being like, yeah, exactly, they outsmarted the original plan. And that shows the brilliance of Ethan Hunt and his team. But on a fundamental screenwriting level, it's not very satisfying to spend all this time setting up things that kind of don't. You're like, why did we do that? Similarly, that's my kind of issue with this scuba suit setup. They're talking about how he's going to go through the bends and all this crazy stuff as he's going deeper and deeper underwater. And as you're watching the sequence play out, it just seems like he's experiencing the typical threat of drowning. You know, like they set up all this psychological pressure and these insane rules that feel like they're completely abandoned. And the sequence ends with a moment that feels like it's fully jumping the shark. It's jumping the sub. And people in my theater were laughing at the complete disregard to what the movie set up until that point. And I sound really negative of this. But the issue is, the reason I am frustrated and the reason I'm saying all this is because when this movie works, it's breathtaking yet again. And I'm sort of sitting there being like, if only this was reined in a bit. I feel like Tom Cruise is obsessed with this idea of doing these incredible stunts, and they are incredible, but sometimes there's a bit of a disconnect, you know? Like the submarine sequence is incredible and breathtaking and really, really exciting and tense, and there's no music for ages. But then, you know, there's moments where kind of an ideal payoff should happen and it just doesn't quite. Or, for example, the plane sequence that has been marketed in all the posters, all the trailers, is incredible. It's an incredible stunt, but it starts to feel like it's an incredible stunt for a stunt team. It almost feels like I don't want to spoil too much, but Tom Cruise is trying to get from one plane to another, from a red biplane and hijack, like GTA style, a yellow biplane. That's a really exciting setup. The issue is, at a certain point, the way the planes are flying and the way they're kind of trying to maneuver each other, you start to feel like, oh, this is a coordinated stunt where people are working together so Tom Cruise can pull this off, rather than this is a villain that is trying to escape Ethan Hunt. Do you know what I mean? Because at a certain point, the plane is just very conveniently like hovering in a way that Tom Cruise can like maneuver himself onto it, because clearly that's what they had to do in the real making of. And I love practical stunts, but there's a certain point in what should feel like a life or death chase between a villain and Tom Cruise, and instead it feels like two boomers having fun on their biplanes and trying to pull off a sick stunt. And then the movie kind of remembers, wait, you guys are in opposition, kill each other. It'll make sense if you watch the movie. There's just moments where it feels like, instead of it feeling like a life or death chase scene where the guy's doing barrel rolls to get rid of Tom Cruise, it kind of feels like, oh, come up a bit, come up. And all this being said is because I rewatched a lot of these Mission Impossible movies leading up to this, and I kind of miss the relatable stakes. I don't think ChatGPT taking over the world is as exciting as, you know, in Rogue Nation, the extended car chase into motorbike chase, where I know what it's like to, you know, drive a car. So when he's zipping in between cars on a motorbike, I'm like, holy shit, you know? Whereas in this one, at a certain point, like the stakes are just so high. And there's also a character moment that bugged me so much where halfway through the movie, Hayley Atwell's character, who I will say I absolutely love. It's not all bad here. I think in the past two movies, the introduction of Hayley Atwell's character and Pom Clementine's character are both excellent additions to this franchise and kind of infuse it with a youthful lifeblood that I think the franchise maybe has been losing in, frankly, just the past two installments. But really love their addition. But there's a moment where Hayley Atwell is like, what if someone can control the entity? What if that power can be used for good? And Tom Cruise very clearly says, like, no, that is way too much power. No one man should have all that power, to quote Kanye. And and Hayley Atwell is like, oh, okay. And then there's a choice later in the movie where I'm like, did you not listen? Did you not listen to what Tom Cruise was saying? But look, I did like this movie. Like, if you're interested in the Mission Impossible franchise, still go see it. The stunts here, when they happen, are incredible. But my God, I actually think 2 hours and 20 minutes of this movie are just insane, uninteresting, not even like campy fun, just like overdone dialogue and explanation and just convoluted gobbledygook. Like, the whole movie to me felt like gobbledygook, except for those like action sequences. And I feel bad for Tom Cruise, because I so badly wanted to be able to recommend this and be like, it's another Fallout, it's another great action movie. But as it stands, and truthfully, I didn't even find the action sequences here, maybe the submarine, I did like the submarine, but I didn't find they were as exhilarating as even the train sequence in the last movie or the car chase in the little yellow Fiat. Because I did like the submarine sequence, but I feel like in another Mission Impossible movie, this wouldn't have been the action sequence. This would have just been part of getting the thing, you know? Like in Rogue Nation, there's a 6-minute section where he has to hold his breath, but that's not the main spectacle of the movie, whereas in this one it is. And I'm trying not to diminish my admiration for Tom Cruise's stunt work, but yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. It wasn't the full blown payoff to this franchise I was kind of expecting. Anyways, spoiler talk. Leave now. Overall, if you're interested in the movie, see the movie. We're going to get into spoilers in 3, 2, 1. Have you left? All right. So, Ethan Hunt, there is a moment that I fucking rated so hard. So, he gets the thing from the guy in the plane, and then the plane kind of explodes. The villain, I didn't vent about the villain enough. The villain gets a death. The villain sucks, by the way. He is so bad. Gabriel is so bad. There's no cathartic release here because you didn't really know Ethan Hunt's love interest that he killed. He did technically kill, like he did kill Ilsa Faust, but I don't think the movie did enough character work for me to really hate this guy. He just feels like a bad actor that's shown up in this movie, but he has a pretty good death, I will admit, like a very funny death. It didn't quite have the moment or the punch that Henry Cavill's death in number 6 had, but it was pretty good. But there's a moment where Ethan Hunt grabs the thingamajig that he needed, and he's putting the thingamajig in the thingamajig as he's falling from the sky, free falling. And the music kind of goes quiet. You have notably, admittedly, like a really cool visualization of them catching the entity in this little box, which I guess was a strange plot point, but cool to see play out. And again, like all talk, like you didn't really feel this moment as much as I felt like we should have, because we never got a sense of what the entity was up to at a certain point. And I know, how do you get ChatGPT to communicate? But it was just sort of like, I forgot the entity was like a thing, you know, but it was a cool moment. Ethan Hunt is falling from the sky. And I was like, this is a great ending for Ethan Hunt. No one's there with him. He's purely alone, but they feel his victory, right? Because they catch the entity. It shows that he's done the thing and he's falling from the sky and his parachute flames up. And I'm like, oh my God, that's the end of Ethan Hunt. You know, they've done this a few times in the franchise where they show us that, you know, the plan has gone wrong or someone's died, and then by Deus Ex Machina, they're alive. But I really thought this would be it because it's the final movie, apparently. And he's falling and falling. It's emotional and quiet and dramatic. And I felt the crowd kind of move with me on this. We were all kind of like, oh no, Ethan, his parachute's gone. And then all of a sudden, he's fucking alive and well with another parachute. And I'm like, bro, you had like a great ending for that character right there. And the only excuse I can give this is if they're going to make another one. If they're going to make another one and it slaps as hard as like 4, 5, or 6, even maybe 7, I can excuse this. But if this is the final one, that was just such an obvious ending. And I know it's a bit depressing for people, but, you know, God forbid we feel something in these movies. And then someone shows up to like kill him. And I'm like, oh, this is like a sad, good ending. But no. And then the movie just ends with them going off for, you know, saying goodbye, everyone in the team. And like, it feels like we'll just do another one. So I'm kind of struggling because all this setup, like 6 hours of movie for Gabriel, who kind of sucks, and the entity, which I didn't really feel. My favorite action sequence in this is a moment where he's in one of the submarines, not the fully sunk submarine, but he's in like a submersible carrier with some people, and there ends up being like an inside agent that tries to kill him. It's really exciting knife fight, and it's cutting between a shootout fight in a cabin, and I liked that too. That was my favorite section of action in the movie, just because it was like gritty and palpable and exciting. There's one other thing I was going to say. This whole movie, they're setting up this idea like, you're going to give a lot of this movie's dialogue is like, you're going to do that thing. That's crazy. It was too self-referential for me. But there's this moment where they keep hyping up that they're going to give Ethan Hunt an aircraft carrier. Like they spend 15-20 minutes being like, oh, we can't give him an aircraft carrier. We're going to give him an aircraft carrier. That's crazy. We're going to give him an aircraft carrier. Oh my God. All he does on the aircraft carrier, low key, is like talk to the baddie from Ted Lasso, and then just jumps off the thing like straight away. I was like, why did we need all that junk about this aircraft carrier? And then similarly, like so much of this movie was just explaining, and like I like dialogue, but the dialogue I would have liked, if we're not going to do action, what I much would have preferred is like efficient storytelling with the plan, or really like show me and visualize the plan like they did in number 6. Or Really nice character moments. So as it stands, I probably give this movie like a 3 out of 5, a 3.5 out of 5. Unfortunately, it's not bad at all. Like, it's not bad at all. It's just not very good, you know? So, and that's why I feel bad for Tom Cruise, because I think, you know, I don't think he realized how clunky this was in the edit. I think he was really excited, and I like how excited he is to make movies. I really, really like that about him, and I want more action franchises like this. And if this was just a normal action movie, would have been like Monkey Man, you know, like, well done, pretty solid effort. But this is Mission Impossible, man. And it's just a little bit of a bum note. So I hope this isn't the last one. Fuck it, go to 9, go to 10. Why not? Anyways, thank you so much for watching, everyone. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. Like, this doesn't fill me with joy. Have a lovely day. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and consider getting a membership to this channel every 2 to 3 to 4 weeks. Every 2 weeks, I'm trying at the moment. I do a podcast talking about everything I've watched in a given week, both shows and movies. And for top tier members, you get to vote for a video that will land on the main channel. Right now, it's going to be Secret Lives of Mormon Wives Season 1. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe and have a lovely day. Thank you.